I am Jason Abraham, the Shadow Teacher 33, and the Shadow Teacher 33 YouTube channel, the Shadow Teacher 33 BitChute channel. These channels are devoted to exploring human potential, exploring the pathway to expressing the highest version of ourselves. They're devoted to exploring the shadows, the blocks, what's in our unconscious, what gets in our way of something true, something pure coming out of us and expressing through us in a unique way that cannot be expressed through anyone else in the world other than you. And if you're watching these channels, you're probably putting work into yourself. You've probably done a lot of work on your physical body, your emotional body, your intellect, and just your overall energy of how you're orienting towards the world. You've made the intention that you're going to walk in a higher state of consciousness, that you are going to have an understanding of what it feels like to be more conscious, and conscious not in a self-conscious way, conscious in an expansive way. But what I found, no matter how much work you put into this, and no matter how far you've come, you're going to have moments of weakness. You're going to have moments when you're going to be tired. You're going to have moments where people or circumstances that have come into your life trigger you. And they trigger those last little tidbits of soul trauma that you haven't healed. And then you may just have a moment that's a perfect shitstorm where you're exhausted, your willpower has been depleted, you're running low on resources, and your consciousness is lower than it normally is, and you make a bad decision. You make a bad choice in that moment, and you're around the wrong person. You're around that person who triggers the worst in you, or you're in a situation that's triggering the worst in you. And no matter how much work you've done, in that one little moment, the devil in you shows up. The devil in you comes out, and you lose your shit. You get angry. You act out of fear. You act out of a need to control, a need to manipulate, a need to want to change what is. And from that action, you feel the emotions of guilt and shame. And you go back down to that bottom vibration of guilt, shame, regret. But when you're doing the work on yourself, you don't stay there. You can recognize that's not who you are. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't know a single person on this world. I'm sure there's some ascended masters who may be walking the earth who never make mistakes, who just hit that high level of consciousness and stay there all the time. But I'm not that person, and I don't know any of them. So when we hit those moments, then we forgive ourselves. We forgive ourselves for that moment to where we fell out of consciousness. And we go back to doing the work. We go back to the healing. We go back and asking, what is this moment teaching me? What do I need to keep healing? But doing it in a kind way, not an obsessive way, but in a way that we're kind to ourselves, loving to ourselves, and honoring the best in us, and nurturing ourselves in a very kind way. And we learn to forgive ourselves, and we learn to forgive maybe that other person that triggered it. We learn to maybe not put ourselves in a circumstance that's going to trigger that when we're in a low place ourselves, when our energy is low, to have that awareness. When my energy is low, I'm going to choose not to be in this particular circumstance, if possible. Sometimes we got to suck it up and do it. But we go back, even when we fall, we pick ourselves up again, and we have a greater sense of awareness. And we keep moving forward, one step at a time. And when we take this attitude of forgiveness, of healing, of not identifying with that shame, with that guilt, and we learn from that shame and guilt and make different decisions in the future, become a better version of ourselves in the future, then that's exactly what we do. We become a better, higher version of ourselves. We ascend. We embody something greater. And we don't fall quite the same way, quite as hard the next time around. And this is the process of failing forward into that higher being, the being of us that is able to manifest what it intends, because it's in alignment. It's in that vibrational alignment of what your soul wants on that higher level. And the illusions and the delusions of your ego that are simply coming out of trauma stories, those just get stripped away with these types of events and interactions that produce shame and guilt and suffering. We learn to let go of those, and we learn to understand that that's not the truth of who we are, and we heal that. So I'm going to end this transmission. I'm sure there's someone out there who needs to hear this, and that's what this channel is for. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share my healing, and I'm only going to share what works and what is true, and that's an authentic expression of where I am at this moment in time. So with that being said, be well, be strong, and I'll see you on the other side, my friends.